I woke up at 6:30 on the morning of my wedding day, sunlight filtering through the sheer curtains and warming my face. My heart pounded with a curious blend of excitement and dread as I remembered the hours ahead, the ceremony at St. Teresa's Chapel downtown, the elegant reception at the Brixton Loft, my family gathered in celebration. I sat up slowly, my white silk robe slipping from my shoulders, and breathed in the scent of peonies and fresh linen. Even having dreamed of this day since I was a little girl, I was unprepared for the storm of anticipation that pulls through every fiber of my being. I swung my legs over the edge of the bed and stood, the plush carpet cool beneath my feet. I padded across the suite to the minibar, reaching for the chilled bottle of sparkling water I'd bought the night before. As I twisted off the cap, my phone buzzed insistently on the marble countertop. It was a text from Vanessa, my younger sister, asking if I was up and ready. I smiled, tapped out a quick reply, then paused as a strange impulse made me glance toward the hallway mirror. My reflection showed a woman about to embark on the biggest moment of her life, 35 years old, newly in love, poised on the brink of forever. But in my chest I felt something else, a knot of unease I couldn't shake. I shook my head, telling myself it was nerves, and took a sip of water. Down the hall, I found my maid of honor, Jane, unzipping the sleeve of my wedding dress with meticulous care. She flashed me a reassuring grin. "You look like a goddess," she said, stepping back to admire the lace that traced delicate vines across my décolletage. I forced a grin in return, my mind still elsewhere. "I feel like a bundle of nerves," I confessed quietly, voice wobbling. Jane squeezed my hand. "You'll be perfect. Just breathe." Her confidence should have steadied me, but instead, it stirred something restless inside. I'd seen something unusual that morning, something I couldn't unsee. I'd woken at 5:45, earlier than planned, and crept out of bed to find coffee in the kitchenette. On my way back to the bedroom, I passed Vanessa's door. She hadn't heard me. Her door was ajar, her light off. I paused, noticing a soft glow from her phone screen on the carpet. Curious and half asleep, I peered in and saw my sister hunched over, scrolling through photos. At first I didn't think much of it, but as I drew closer I realized the images were from last night. Pictures of my fiancé Grant, in a black sedan outside a downtown bar named the Velvet Room. He wasn't alone. In one blurry frame he slipped, his arm around a woman whose face I couldn't make out clearly, but whose laughter echoed in those grainy pixels. My heart stuttered. I pressed forward, fear sharpening my breath, only for the screen to darken and Vanessa to stir, snapping the phone shut. I recoiled as if burnt and backed away silently. Vanessa didn't stir again, and I slipped back to my room, mind racing. Why had I walked away? Why hadn't I confronted Grant? Even now, hours later, I wasn't sure if what I'd seen meant anything at all. It could have been an old photo, a joke, a misunderstanding. My logical mind argued that perhaps she'd just picked up my phone by accident, or maybe she'd been texting a mutual friend. But my heart, frantic and raw, whispered a different story altogether. Now, as Jane finished zipping me into my gown, I felt that same knot grow tighter. I wanted to ask Vanessa why she'd been up so early, why she'd had Grant's pictures. I wanted to demand the truth before I walked down the aisle. But I knew if I did, I'd risk unraveling everything: my dream wedding, my carefully crafted day, my sister's joy at standing by my side. And she'd been there for me through every heartbreak, every triumph. She deserved better. Jane looped the ivory veil over my updo and slid the comb into place. "Okay, gorgeous," she said softly. "5 more minutes. Photographers will be here any second." I looked at my reflection, the lace train pulled at my feet, the veil cascading like a waterfall of tulle. In another life, I'd have twirled and laughed. Today, I only felt hollow. I forced a breath. If nothing else, I told myself, I could still get through the ceremony. I could still say I do and dance under the chandeliers. Then tonight, I would speak to Grant. Tonight, after the last song, I would ask him to explain. I padded barefoot across the suite to the windows, drawing back the curtains to reveal the city waking below. The streets of Portland's Pearl District shimmered with early light, vendors setting up their stalls, cyclists clipping past on shiny frames. A soft breeze rustled the leaves of the Japanese maples lining the avenue. It was peaceful deceptively. So, I placed my bare palms on the glass, feeling the cool pain, and closed my eyes. I imagined the moment I'd been dreaming about, walking down the aisle, seeing Grant's face, feeling his warmth as we shared our vows. All of that still waited. For me, just minutes away. But the images I'd seen threatened to overshadow everything. I turned from the window and saw Vanessa peeking around the doorframe. Her hair still tousled from sleep, her eyes shining with excitement. She must have heard Jane and me talking. Softly, she crossed the threshold into quick strides and wrapped me in a hug. "Are you okay? You look pale." Her voice was the sweetest melody I'd ever heard, filled with love and anticipation. For a second, I wanted to tell her everything, the betrayal I might have uncovered, the questions swirling in my mind. But as her arms tightened around me, I gently patted her back and managed a smile. "Just a little nervous," I whispered, "but I couldn't be happier that you're here." She stepped back, adjusting the folds of my veil. "Let's finish getting ready. We're going to make so many beautiful memories today." I nodded, watching as she grabbed my hand and led me back toward the mirrors and makeup station. In that moment, I resolved to keep my secret until after the ceremony. Whatever I'd seen, I would bury it for now and let love guide me forward. Tomorrow could wait. Today was for vows and laughter, for dancing and champagne toasts. Today, nothing would derail my wedding unless I chose to let it. And right now, I chose to hold my silence as tightly as I'd hold Grant's hand at the altar. The moment I stepped onto the red carpet runner laid out in front of St. Teresa's Chapel, my breath caught as if I'd plunged underwater. The soft strains of the string quartet drifted from beneath the steeple, warming the morning air. I raised my chin, aware of every eye on me: family, friends, colleagues from my marketing job, and strangers who'd come just to witness this day. My train trailed behind me, each stitch of hand-sewn lace a testament to the months of planning. But with every step, that knot of dread inside my chest tightened, reminding me of the secret I carried from the dawn's early hours. Grant stood beneath the ornate archway, his tailored tuxedo fitting him like a second skin. He turned as I approached, eyes alight with the warm hazel smile I'd fallen for 5 years ago. For a fraction of a second, I let myself believe I could forget the blurry image I'd seen that morning, his arm around a stranger's waist in a black sedan outside the velvet room. I pressed my lips together and inhaled, forcing my features to settle into the serene bride he expected. The officiant greeted us with gentle words and began the blessing. I clasped Grant's hand, surprised by how solid it felt, but my mind drifted to those photos in Vanessa's room. I repeated the vows I'd written, promises of honesty, loyalty, endurance, each word echoing hollowly against my racing heart. When I spoke of eternal love, I briefly thought that perhaps I could make this lie become truth, that faith alone might banish my doubts. But as I slipped the ring onto his finger, the weight of the image behind my eyes pulled me back down. When the recessional music swelled, we turned to walk back down the aisle amid soft petals and glittering confetti. The congregation rose, applause filling the vaulted space. I dared to look at Grant, hoping to catch some sign that maybe there was nothing to worry about, that I'd misread the morning's glimpse. His eyes were fixed on me, shining with pride, trust, love. Guilt surged. How could I betray him with my silence? But even stronger was my fear of confirmation. Outside, the courtyard blossomed under the sun. Vanessa materialized at my side, her emerald green dress a splash of color against the stone. She grabbed my arm and whispered, "You did it, sis. You're glowing." Her excitement was infectious. For a heartbeat, I let her drag me into the moment, laughing as she spun me around. I allowed the warmth of her joy to chase away the chill of suspicion. Yet beneath that laughter, my pulse pounded too fast, my thoughts whirling with unasked questions. Soon we piled into a black stretch limo bound for the Brixton loft. The city's skyline shimmered through tinted windows as Grant poured me a flute of champagne. He raised his glass in a triumphant toast. "To us, to forever." I echoed the sentiment, but the clink of our crystal flutes felt like metal on metal. I watched the bubbles rise and break, tiny orbs of effervescence that mirrored the cracking facade I wore. He reached across and brushed a curl from my cheek. His touch should have soothed me, but instead it sparked the embers of anger. I hid my face behind a practiced smile, arriving at the Brixton loft, its grand iron doors open to reveal soaring ceilings and an enormous crystal chandelier. The world snapped back into celebration. Guests poured in, awed by the opulence, and I moved through the crowd with Grant at my side. We greeted well-wishers, posed for snapshots, laughed at toasts. I sipped champagne, each sweet taste tinged with bitterness. Vanessa circulated among the tables, ensuring everyone felt included, beaming at me every time our eyes met. I ached to tell her what I'd seen, to spare her any future pain, but I couldn't bring myself to shatter her perfect day. Finally, the DJ cued our first dance, a soft acoustic cover of an old love song. Grant took my hand and led me to the center of the marble floor, pulling me close. My cheek rested against his tuxedo jacket, and I could feel the rhythmic thump of his heartbeat. It was so steady, so sure, exactly the confidence I needed to believe I was making the right choice. His voice, low and tender in my ear, whispered, "You're everything I ever dreamed of." I closed my eyes, inhaled his scent, and for a fleeting moment, let go of doubt. Vanessa watched from the edge of the dance floor, tears glistening in her lashes. She caught my eye and mouthed, "I love you." I returned the gesture, smiling through my own fear. She deserved every ounce of happiness tonight. I owed her that much. If there was a chance I was wrong about Grant, I would protect her memory of this day. If I was right, tomorrow I would figure out how to heal what I broke. The dance ended, and speeches began. Laughter rose around me, clinking glasses punctuating heartfelt toasts. My maid of honor, Jane, spoke of childhood memories, muddy Treeford adventures, shared ice cream cones after heartbreaks. My parents recounted the day I was born and how I'd declared I would give my future husband the best wedding ever. The room echoed with affection. I raised my glass to them all, and no one suspected the storm brewing behind my tight lips. Later, between cake cutting and bouquet toss, I slipped away to the ladies' lounge. The corridor was hushed, the air scented faintly of lilies from the reception hall. Inside, fluorescent lights gleamed off polished marble counters. I crowded in front of the mirror, studying the bride reflected back. Bright eyes, flushed cheeks, a serene smile. I pressed both palms against the sink, tilting my head forward. My veil brushed the counter as I stared at the flawless exterior. Behind my lids, I replayed those photos, Grant's arm around her waist, laughter suspended on a grainy frame. I let out a slow breath and washed my face with cold water. My reflection looked back at me, triumphant and innocent. I dabbed concealer under my eyes, smoothed my hair, and touched the satin of my gown. Tonight would remain untouched by doubt. Tomorrow, when the last guest had gone home, I would demand the truth. But right now, I owed it to my sister, to all of us, to live. In this moment of joy, I would step back into the light and spend the rest of my night as the bride I'd longed to be, radiant, in love, and unbroken. I opened the lounge door and re-entered the hall. The final song had begun. Grant stood at the edge of the dance floor, spotting me instantly. He held out his hand, and I took it, letting the music and warm candlelight sweep over me. Vanessa joined us, linking arms as we moved together in a slow circle. For now, I would dance. For now, I would be the bride who believed in a promise. Tomorrow, I would chase the truth, but tonight, I chose to trust in love's glittering spell. When the last note faded, I would face whatever came next. But not until then. I woke at dawn tangled in satin sheets, the remnants of last night's champagne headache pounding behind my eyes. The loft was silent, sunlight slanting through gauzy drapes, dust motes floating in the golden haze. My wedding gown hung on a padded hanger in the corner, its lace train still trailing across the floorboards like a whisper of yesterday's joy. I pressed my hand to my ribcage, where the murmur of doubt still fluttered like a moth's wing, and forced myself to sit up. Today, I had vowed, I would unearth the truth. I padded over to the antique vanity and flicked on the light, watching my reflection emerge. A bride gone slightly weary, dark circles accentuating my blue-green eyes, lips pressed into a firm line. My fingers trembled as they lifted the phone from its cradle. I scrolled to the photos Vanessa had sent me the night before in her congratulatory text, but there were no new images, no hidden evidence. My mind raced back to that early morning glimpse of her screen, to the blurred woman leaning into Grant's side. Was it possible I'd dreamed it? I exhaled, head spinning. No! I'd seen it. I couldn't let it dissolve into imagination. I dressed quickly in a simple white sundress and tiptoed down the hall to Vanessa's room. Her door stood ajar. I paused, knuckles whitening as I knocked softly. She called, "Come in." Her tone, bright, oblivious. Inside, she perched on her bed, scrolling through her phone with the same furrowed brow I'd seen hours ago. "Hey," I began, my voice brittle. "Can we talk?" She looked up, startled by my urgency. "Sure. What's up?" I swallowed. "This morning, I saw you looking at photos of Grant. Why were you up so early and why were you looking at his pictures?" Her face blanched. She set the phone aside, smoothing her hair. "Oh God. I was trying to get everything ready for you. Remember how you said you wanted a slideshow of candid shots at the reception? I snuck onto his phone to find some from our nights out and surprise you." Relief and shame crashed through me in equal measure. I thought. I trailed off. Vanessa reached out, her hand warm on mine. "I never meant to invade his privacy or yours. I just wanted something special for your party collage." "I'm so sorry if I worried you." I let out a shaky laugh. "You nearly gave me a heart attack. I thought there was something wrong." She squeezed my fingers. "Nothing's wrong. Please forgive me." My heart still thrummed with uncertainty, so I knew I had one more conversation to have. I slipped out of Vanessa's room and found Grant downstairs, leaning against the kitchen island, polishing a coffee mug. He looked up, sleep-creased features softening into a smile. "Morning, beautiful." The words should have soothed me, but instead they sparked a fresh tremor. "Can we talk?" I asked, meeting his gaze. He set the mug down and nodded. Of course. His expression turned serious, and I realized I'd waited too long to ask. "Last night, I thought I saw you with another woman," I blurted, outside the velvet room. "My sister saw some pictures on her phone," he inhaled, arms unfolding as he stepped closer. "Okay," he said gently. "Let me explain." He ran a hand through his hair and spoke quickly. "After rehearsal dinner, I stopped by the Velvet Room to grab a rideshare home because the roads were blocked by a protest. I ran into Claire, my colleague from the ad agency. She was there celebrating a big campaign win. Her car broke down outside, and she was stranded. I gave her a lift home." He paused, searching my face. "Those are the pictures you saw." She was sitting in the front seat, laughing because the traffic was a nightmare. "That's all it was. I promise." I stared at him, astonished at how calmly he explained himself. Bits of memory surfaced, the clink of mugs as he toasted her campaign victory. His laughter over her stories of office drama. The midnight text he'd sent me saying he'd be home soon. None of it matched betrayal. I swallowed hard. "Why didn't you tell me?" I whispered. He reached out, cupping my cheek. "I didn't want to worry you before your wedding. I thought I'd explain in person today." His earnest eyes flickered with hurt. I closed my own eyes, tracing the fine lines at the corner of his mouth. "I'm sorry I doubted you," I said, voice thick. "I should have asked you first." He pulled me into his arms, and I let myself dissolve into relief. The tension I'd carried for 24 hours seeped out of me in soft sobs. He held me as I cried, murmuring apologies and assurances that everything was okay. When I finally drew back, I wiped my cheeks and offered him a small, tired smile. "I love you," I said. His grin lit up the room. "And I love you more than yesterday, less than tomorrow." We found Vanessa in the kitchen, her face lighting up when she saw us together. I threw my arms around her, tears of happiness this time prickling at my lashes. "Thank you for the slideshow idea," I teased gently. She laughed, relief washing over her features. "Anything for you." Over coffee and leftover wedding cake, The three of us reminisced about moments from the ceremony, the look on your father's face, Grandma breaking into tears during the vows, the way the sunset painted the city gold as we exited the chapel. Later, as we packed up decorations and leftover favors, I realized that suspicion had almost stolen my wedding day from me. I vowed I wouldn't let fear undermine my trust again. I hugged Vanessa tight and promised we'd make that slideshow the highlight of the honeymoon. Grant ruffled my hair affectionately and reminded me we still had a road trip ahead of us first. Stop. The coast for a quiet 2 days alone. The promise of salty air and sandy toes felt like the perfect antidote to my bruised nerves. When the last box was sealed, we piled into our car. I sat between Grant and Vanessa in the back seat, the suitcase compartment crammed with champagne flutes, cake toppers, and stray party balloons. The engine rumbled to life, and as we pulled away from the Brixton loft, I watched the city skyline shrink in the rearview mirror. The knot of doubt inside me had finally loosened. What remained was a golden thread of trust binding me to the two most important people in my life. Sunlight danced across the dashboard as we cruised toward the Pacific Highway. Vanessa hummed along to a playlist of our favorite songs, and Grant held my hand, squeezing it gently when the road curved. I leaned my head on his shoulder and closed my eyes, feeling safe and whole for the first time in 24 hours. This was the beginning of our married life, flaws, fears, and all, and I knew that as long as we chose honesty over silence, we would weather any storm together. The sea breeze beckoned, and with it came the promise of a tomorrow built on truth.